thank you for coming, guys, on a Tuesday night to learn about your gut. You guys excited about
Yes.
this? Yeah, this is super important. We call the gut the second brain, which is incredibly important as far as our overall health is concerned. So we are going to get down to business and learn about the gut honest truth. So Hippocrates once said all diseases begin in the gut. Okay, so take a look at this list here. Are there any in here that surprise you? Mood disorders, learning disabilities, infertility, autoimmune, brain disorders, cognitive decline. Some of these are a little bit surprising, huh? Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Okay, so the major premise of this talk is to talk about the fact that our bodies really are designed to heal. We were intentionally created, we were intentionally designed to heal, but we do have to give our bodies what it needs to heal, okay? So we're gonna talk about some of that today. So, what controls the function and healing of our body? Everybody together.
The nervous system.
We hear this all the time in our office. If you are our patients, which most of you are, you're gonna hear us talk about the nervous system all the time because it is so dynamically connected to our overall health, okay? And so when we are consistently getting those adjustments, we are consistently strengthening our body, our immune system, our nervous system as a whole. So let's get into this. Okay, so allopathy versus vitalism. Anyone off the top of your head familiar with these terms? Okay, so when we talk about allopathy versus vitalism, it's really a mindset. I'm going to simplify it for you guys. The reality is these concepts have been in debate for thousands of years, okay, like no joke. Vitalism is very philosophical and can get real heady, and I'm not going to get anywhere near that tonight. Basically, what I want to talk about is the reality of mindset. So allopathy is another word for allopathic medicine or conventional medicine or modern Western medicine. How many of you are familiar with that?
Yeah.
Probably every single one of us in this room are familiar with conventional medicine. If I break my foot, I go to a hospital, I'm going to be treated with modern medicine, right? Allopathic medicine. Okay, basically the premise of allopathic or allopathy, you could use those terms interchangeably, is symptoms based. Okay, so if you have a symptom, you're going to go to the doctor and they're going to say, we see your symptom, we are going to do the exact opposite of that symptom and we are going to knock it out, right? It's very segmented, if you will. There's a lung doctor, there's a heart doctor, there's a this and a that and a that, right? Everything is segmented, meaning the body is a material entity, the sum of its parts. There is one cause to any specific disease, where a vitalistic perspective is going to be, it's going to take the whole, you could say, Western medicine versus holistic medicine, if you will, to make this super simple. Okay, so where there's one cause to a specific disease, vitalism is going to say, actually, there could be possibly multiple causes, okay? It's going to say we're more mind, body, soul, and spirit, and all of the things combined is more of a vitalistic, holistic, if you will, approach. Does that make sense? Nod your head if you're tracking with me.
Yes.
Okay? So allopathy, like I said, is the opposite. So if I have an infection, the opposite of an infection is kill all the stuff, right? Get rid of the infection, which we want, and that's awesome. Okay, a vitalistic approach is going to ask more questions, go a little bit deeper. Well, why is this infection happening, and how can we deal with it in a little more of a holistic way? It's the reality that your body is intelligent. Your body was designed to heal. Okay, and so an allopathic mindset could be disease happens to me, and I'm a victim. I'm a victim of my parents' DNA or my parents' genetics. Now, a lot of that, there is some reality to that. There is an exception to every rule, okay? But as a whole, we're talking as a whole, okay? So The body is intelligent. The vitalistic perspective is going to be that your body was designed to heal. The reality is that your body is beautiful. It is smart, it is intentional, it is specific in its ability to heal, okay? And that's a powerful thought. So a victim mentality is going to be like, I have no say in what happens to my life. Disease happens to me. Where vitalism is going to say more, actually, I have control over the choices that I make, and my choices will have consequences. Does that make sense? Good or bad. And so I can actually take control and do as much as I can to have a healthy body and take care of my body. Now, I am by no means bashing allopathy, okay? I am incredibly grateful for modern medicine, right? So none of us are here, okay, to bash any of that. You guys, some of you may know Dr. Megan's story. Back in the fall, her baby was born at 29 weeks. If it was not for allopathic medicine, she may not be with us today. And little Mia might not be with us today, okay? So this is not, I am not bashing by any means. I don't want anyone to walk away and be like, well, at Freedom, they hate modern medicine. Like, not at all, okay? I like to look at this reality as an emergency care system versus more of a preventative, take that kind of control of your body, make those good choices, make those health decisions that are going to serve your body long term. Does that make sense to everybody? So with those two things, we'll get questions a little bit.
This isn't it, but this is a comment.
Oh, okay.
In Australia, this is called their normal care.
Yes.
They call this crisis care.
Yes, absolutely. Normal versus crisis. Absolutely. So with this in mind, we're going to move forward, okay? So 133 million Americans, or about half the population, suffer from at least one chronic illness. Okay, that's a staggering statistic. If allopathic medicine was working in the way that we were kind of schooled, this is a harsh word, but kind of indoctrinated to believe. We kind of grow up where you have to have your well checks, you have to do these things. Now, I am not by any means bashing that at all. Okay, so don't hear that. But we do kind of have this mentality of, well, if something hurts, we have to go to the doctor, we have to figure it out, rather than asking bigger questions. Well, what did you eat last night? What have you been eating for the last 6 months? Does that make sense? We want to ask bigger questions. If relying on allopathic medicine in and of itself, these are our statistics, okay? So, again, I'm not bashing this. I love Western medicine is amazing. In its place, okay? So the gut. We're going to talk about the dynamic digestive system. What's the role of the digestive system? Anybody know?
A little bit of everything.
Energy, digestion of food, basically, right? It's to take the food that we eat, to absorb it into the body, to get those nutrients going where they need to go. The digestive system is made up of hollow organs here. The GI tract, or gastrointestinal tract, begins in your mouth, your esophagus, your stomach, then your small and large intestine, and then where we eliminate, okay? That is the GI tract. The digestive system also consists of the liver, the pancreas, and the gallbladder. These are incredibly helpful organs when it comes to storing digestive enzymes, things that we need, kind of body-produced chemicals and things that we need for digestion, for other things like that. So what is the microbiome? Anybody familiar with that term? Microbiome, or the gut? Inside, so your GI tract is a key attribute in your digestive system. The GI tract contains trillions, you guys, trillions of bacteria, viruses, and fungi, which are collectively called the gut microbiome. So anywhere from the mouth all the way through those hollow organs I talked about is a lining that is filled with bacteria, okay? Most of us knew that, right? We've all heard, oh, we should probably have bacteria, but sometimes it doesn't, it sounds gross. We're like, bacteria is probably bad, we want to get rid of bacteria, right? Bacteria is not always bad. There's a balance between good and bad, okay? So, our gastrointestinal system consists of digestion, absorption, and elimination. Our organs take in that food, they break it down, it's absorbed into the nutrients in our body, which is where that energy comes from, also, you know, all the other functions that we have, and then elimination is the process of excreting the waste from our body, okay? I actually want to go back to this slide just for a second. So I talk about the trillions of bacteria. There are also between 100 and 600 billion neurons in your gut, okay? I don't know if anybody saw our Instagram story this last week, but the billions of neurons. So there's, I think, there's 100, between 100 and 600 million neurons in the gut. There's 100 billion neurons in the brain, to give you guys that comparison there. So we have the 100 billion neurons here that's communicating. We always talk in our office, right? We want to clear up subluxation, clear up that interference so the brain can send the messages down through our body, right? Well, in the gut, there is between 100 and 600 million neurons as well as that bacteria. The gut actually has the ability to communicate to the brain the same way the brain has the ability to communicate to the gut. Do you guys know that?
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. That's why if you go up to speak in public, you get nervous. Or if you're a mom and something feels off, you're like, I don't know, I got that mom gut. Something feels a little bit funny. And your body, your brain actually has the ability to make decisions based on what your gut is telling you. I don't know, I just had a gut feeling. You guys, that familiar with you?
Right.
And you go, I actually made a decision. Why did you choose that? You go home, why did you choose that? Your spouse. I don't know, I just had a gut feeling about it. It didn't feel right, something felt off, okay? It's that gut feeling. Your brain, the neurons in your gut are actually communicating to your brain, and then your body has the ability to make that decision based on that communication. It's called the gut-brain axis. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so body signals. Guys, our body is always talking to us, right? We know this. If every time you stub your toe, your foot is like, seriously? Watch where you're going, right? Our body is talking to us. So what happens when we have issues, gastrointestinal body signals? We're going to talk a little bit more about this later, but these are some of those basic ones. Bloating, right? We all know about bloating. Abdominal pain, constipation, nausea, diarrhea. Okay, so what? We have all those symptoms. Let's talk about leaky gut. There are several things that can happen when our gut is unhealthy, when that microbiome is unbalanced, when there's issues going on in the gut, okay? Leaky gut is one of them. So, leaky gut is literally exactly what it sounds like, okay? So, I talked about the lining a little bit of that digestive system, right? The GI tract. Inside that lining, it should look like this. That lining is there to protect the outside from the inside, right? Why else would we have lining on anything? It's to protect the outside from the inside. So what a leaky gut does is it basically means that lining separates a little bit. Okay, so you have holes and cracks, things like that, which, use your imagination here, if the lining of your small and large intestine, or any of those things happening here, is opening up, where is that bacteria going? It's going into your bloodstream, and anything that could be outside can come in, okay? That's gross, right? That's what leaky gut is. Okay, and then this SIBO, SIBO, I like to say SIBO. How do you say it, Dr. Megan? Just say SIBO. SIBO. I want to shorten everything. Small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. This is a condition in which there is an abnormal amount, let's just say amount, of bacteria in the small intestine, okay? What this means, this is not always bad bacteria, okay? Sometimes it's good bacteria that has been overgrown. Hi guys, that pillar is throwing me off. It can grow a little bit too close to the stomach. There's several issues that can happen with this. One of the major issues though is that is that you're basically competing with the bacteria that's growing in your gut for food, okay? And that can lead to all kinds of issues. That can lead to eventually osteoporosis, where it's sucking nutrients from your bones. It can lead to all kinds of things that can happen when you don't get enough nutrients, okay? So this is not good. Some of the other issues that can happen with gut stuff, irritable bowel syndrome. Say that, irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, or Crohn's. There are several things like that, which we're going to get into a little bit more of the science of that later. But a lot of these things, a lot of people might say this is genetic, or I feel, or someone else in my family has struggled with this, or I'm not sure how to get out of these kinds of things. All of these issues, like I talked about in the beginning, if you give your body what it needs, if you are thinking preventatively, long-term, versus that victim, versus that, I'm gonna be victorious over this mindset, a lot of these things can be prevented. Now, there is always those situations where something random happens and all of a sudden you're in an emergency kind of crisis situation. Again, there are those exceptions, okay? I will never say, you will never get sick if you do all these things. It's just not the world we live in, okay? But for the majority, and if you are intentional and careful, and I'm not talking about being afraid, I'm just saying you're intentional and you're doing the right things, you're eating the right stuff, and you're helping that microbiome be healthy, a lot of these things can be avoided, and you won't be subject necessarily to others in your family or people or things that have come down the line, okay? So how common is SIBO? It's estimated that close to 80% of people who have irritable bowel syndrome or IBS also have this bacterial overgrowth. Here are some symptoms. Literally almost all the same as the other ones I said. Add some gas, some nausea, some reflux in there. Basically, we've all experienced most of these things at some point in our lives, right? So I'm not talking about, oh, I'm struggling with the flu is going around. I'm talking about this is chronic, this is stuff that's happening consistently, and you're just noticing, I'm just bloated all the time. I don't know why, I've tried other things, I don't know what's going on, or I just have got this pain in my gut, I don't know what's going on. Or maybe you have some of those other symptoms that nothing's fixing it. And you're like, what is happening? I've tried medication, I've tried this, I've tried that. Let's ask some bigger questions. And obviously we are all different, we are all individual in our bodies. We're all created specific, like I said, intentionally, which means that, we do case by case. I'm not gonna say all of you are surely with this because you have bloating. Everybody's different, okay? So these are some really cool statistics here. Over 70%, some people say between 70 and 80% of our immune system is housed in the gut. Raise your hand if you knew that. That is a massive statistic. So if we are, well, I'll get to that in a second. Okay, 70% of the immune system, 90 to 95% of the body's serotonin is produced in the gut. Raise your hand if you knew that. That's insane. Think about that for a second. So serotonin is a hormone that our body produces. Serotonin, melatonin, right? You guys have all mostly heard of melatonin. Serotonin is the body that when the sun comes up, it's the hormone that wakes our bodies up. When we get up, it's also known as the happy hormone. It's what makes us happy. If you're in the sun for a long period of time, your body is gonna produce serotonin and you're gonna be happy, okay? How many of you know that? If you've been in the sun and you come home and you're like, I'm just abnormally happy, I don't know why. Serotonin is to blame for that. Vitamin D and all that all kind of works together. Serotonin kicks in when the sun comes up, and then when the sun goes down, melatonin begins to produce. Okay, again, our bodies are intentional, you guys. So 95% of that happens in the gut. So we will come back to that in a little bit. Dr. Megan's going to come up and talk about the 5 pillars of the gastrointestinal distress.
Okay, so with a lot of what Katty was just talking about, those deeper questions that we need to be asking, when you get your metabolic system tested, which I'm going to say this now, after tonight, if any of you have more questions about that testing or what that looks like, we don't provide it in the office, we have a resource for it. Email any of the doctors and we can determine, is that where you need to start? Is just simply looking at your diet where you need to start. There's lots of options. like Caddy said, we're all different. We don't all need the same thing. So, but these are the things that they look at with testing. And so, again, if that's something that you think you might need, start the conversation with us via email. That's the easiest way for us to figure out what we need to do next, okay? So, going through these 5 pillars, starting with that maldigestion. What this is specifically referring to is your pancreatic insufficiency and a sluggish gallbladder. If your pancreas isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing, that means you are not properly digesting your macros, which are your carbs, proteins, and fats, specifically the fat, okay? We need healthy fat, in case you guys didn't know that. It's super important for us to have. It is a key ingredient to all sorts of functions in our body. The big ones are hormone function, there we go. Our hormone production, it lowers inflammation, it protects our organs. So those healthy fats are super important to be part of our diet. How many of you, raise your hand, know someone who has had their gallbladder removed? Yeah, majority of you. So believe it or not, you need your gallbladder. It's pretty important. What it does, its function in the body is your liver will create bile, which is we'll call it a juice, yeah. It's a secretion that goes into the small intestine that helps with that breakdown of fat specifically, and then absorption through it. And so you need that healthy, healthy fat for everything, but if you don't have your gallbladder, you can't do that as efficiently because you're not getting that bile into that small intestine as efficiently anymore. Your liver still produces it, it still gets in there, but for those who raise your hand, who know someone, or maybe you have your gallbladder out yourself, you probably know hey, I don't digest fat very well and I have to be careful with what I eat. And that's the reason why you're just not able to as efficiently break down that fat anymore. And with that, you have that diet change to go with it. So all of those things lead to that malabsorption of your food. So then that second pillar is inflammation. So for this one, these are the 3 markers that are looked at in testing. The big ones that I want you guys to look at are the calprotectin and the EPX. What those are they're inflammatory markers that will come up in testing, in stool testing and blood testing and things like that, and it tells us if there is an inflammatory process that's happening within the gut. Now, we know inflammation, it's an important part of our immune system. It gets the white blood cells and everything to that area, but the problem is when this chronically happens all the time, it leads to things like Crohn's disease or IBS, or Crohn's disease is a part of IBS, or celiac. For celiac, it's that histamine reaction right here. If you have chronic inflammation, you're chronically having an immune response happening in your gut, and now all of a sudden, your body is over-responding to things, and you are having allergic reactions to things that you normally wouldn't react to. And it's all because of a chronic inflammatory response that's happening inside your gut. And so by helping your body remove that inflammation, which we'll talk a little bit later on, that's gonna help calm things down so that your gut can then do what it's supposed to do without being overreactive. So does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah, perfect. All right, that third pillar is our metabolic imbalances. So mainly what this one is talking about are these short chain fatty acids. My note on this one, tell you the right information. So for this one, if you're not getting enough fiber or probiotics, then you're not going to be getting, you're not going to be digesting as functionally as you should be. And a big one that causes those imbalances is this glyphosate. Does anyone know what glyphosate is without reading? Oh wait, it doesn't say. Yeah, does anyone know what this is? Yeah, it's yeah, I believe so. So it's sprayed on our plants, on crops, to kill off anything that is not genetically modified to resist the glyphosate. So one, crop needs to be genetically modified to resist it, and then two, this is getting sprayed onto it so everything else is killed off. In our gut, in our system, what this does is it raises the pH of our intestines and everything, which then reduces the production of butyrate, which that is a super important one. I'm getting super nerdy with you guys today, I apologize. Lots of big words. But what this is the main energy source for the cells that make up that lining of our intestine through the entire intestine. So if our pH is high and all of a sudden our energy source is getting limited, the gut can't do its job, right? It has no energy. It's the same thing for you. If you're not getting the energy that you need to function, things don't work properly. So avoiding things like this, or again, getting the proper fiber, those proper probiotics, that's gonna help that pH level of your gut so that it can do what it needs to do. The next one is dysbiosis. What this simply means is it's an imbalance of that gut bacteria. So like Caddy said, we have both good and bad bacteria in our gut. We need a proper balance of that. Too much of the good bacteria is a bad thing. Too much of the bad bacteria is a bad thing. So we need a healthy balance of it. And things like our diet, our nutrition in general are going to disrupt that. And then all of a sudden we have all these other issues. And then, we need good bacteria, in case you guys didn't know that. So for the probiotic, we talk about these types of things all the time, like kimchi, whole milk, yogurt, to get those probiotics, taking a probiotic supplement. The other thing I want to remind you guys of is probiotics that are found in plants, so those phytoproteins. Those are super important. They react with vitamin B in your gut, and so getting your probiotics from greens is fantastic. So it's not just the fermented classic things that you think of. Getting your greens is super important as well, and it's going to help that gut balance be balanced. Okay, and then the last one we have is infection. Again, mainly this one is talking about those parasites in your gut, which are unfortunately becoming more and more common. I don't know why, but it is. So these are things that are going to throw off that happy gut, throw off that good ratio, and just another thing that we look at when we're looking at why isn't your gut functioning the way it's supposed to. So again, those are the 5 pillars. You can dig way, way, way farther into all of those, but I'm not going to answer individual questions about it right now. Email me, or Dr. Jason, or Dr. Wong. We're happy to help, just not right this second, because I'll be here all night, probably until tomorrow actually. All right, so what do we do about all this? We have to heal and recover, right? It's the same thing that we tell you guys in the office all the time. In order to fix a problem, you have to identify the cause, remove that cause, and then restore that balance. It's not just for your gut, it's literally for everything in your life that's going wrong. Identify why it's going wrong, remove that issue, move on with life, be better, all of that, right? And so that first step is identifying the cause. So specifically for gut health, these are the top 5 most common reasons why your gut is not going to be happy. So with that added sugar, it's going to decrease the amount of the good bacteria in your system. Damaged fats, which are like your fried foods, refined oils, inflammatory fats, that's going to also disrupt that balance and cause the dysbiosis. Refined carbs just damage the gut in general. That glyphosate, like we talked about, it hurts that pH. And then lastly, the artificial sweeteners, those are going to disrupt the composition of the gut as a whole. So these are the top 5 reasons why your gut's not working. So look at your diet, look at your life, what can we change? And maybe it's that simple. So, yeah. Okay, and so now we're gonna go into more about removing the interference. Caddy's gonna take over from there, and then I'll be back later. You won't miss me too long, don't worry.
Okay, removing the interference. Okay, the 4 R's to gut healing. How many maybe symptoms that you might be feeling or having that maybe you didn't realize might be a symptom. Anybody? Got a few heads nodding here. All right. Okay, so phase 1 is to remove that interference, right? Removing bad bacteria, yeast, parasites, and overgrowth in the gut. The allopathic approach is going to be bomb the city. Like I talked about, that main mindset is if there's a symptom, we pick the opposite, right? If it's cancer, we go radiation, we go to chemo, right? Here's the problem with that. You leave the city undefended, okay? If you have a city of 1 million people and 100 of those people are the bad guys, then you gotta go in there and you gotta get rid of the bad guys, but you bomb the whole city. What are you doing? Right? You leave that city naked, bare, completely undefended, and then the next guy over who's a state away, rushing in to take that city. How easy is it going to be for that city? Or for those guys to come take that city, right? It's going to be so easy. They just walk in and they just reclaim the homes, right? If everybody's dead, the city belongs to someone else, okay? If that's your immune system, if that's your body. Now, I want you to think about this. We talked about 95% of serotonin is in the gut. If you destroy all the healthy bacteria with the bad stuff, you leave that body completely defenseless, okay? I have a friend whose daughter had cancer. I went to go help her clean her house, and she was like, Caddy, she literally doesn't have an immune system right now. So many of you are probably familiar with this. Anybody that's been during chemo or radiation or things like that, they don't have an immune system. Why? Because they destroyed all the bad stuff, which is awesome, and we want the bad stuff gone, but you can't leave the city undefended, right, or defenseless, okay? So now there again, like I said, there's an exception to every rule. There are times where you have to bomb the city. You just have to, okay? But then not all the time, okay? And so that approach is most often going to just be, let's get rid of everything. If your 95% of your serotonin is gone, guys, they're saying now that the decline, inflammation is the hallmark of mental illness. Dr. Megan talked about the inflammation of the gut, that negative, okay? Mental illness, they're saying right now, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's diseases, what they're finding is that people that are struggling with major mental illnesses like that have had decreasing gut health for years. And nobody's paid attention to it. They haven't paid attention to it. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna eat whatever I want. And all of a sudden they're finding their mental health just significantly declines. That's super scary. 95% depression, anxiety, so much of those kinds of things that we deal with, which we think are here, are actually beginning here. Okay, remember that this is a second brain. Millions and millions of neurons live here. We're like, oh, we need brain health, Guys, we need both, okay? This is incredibly important to be taking care of that. 70 to 80% of immune cells, if you're just kicking them out, our body is left defenseless on so many levels. You go and you hug a little kid with a cold, and then all of a sudden your gut is not doing its job. You're getting the cold. Now, we get colds all the time because there's like 10 billion thousand ways that it mutates, and there's a million of them, right? But you get what I'm saying. So an allopathic approach is going to just bomb the city. But we still have to remove that interference, okay? Phase 2 is going to be protect, nurture, restore the gut's intestinal mucosal cells, okay? So we need to repair the damage that has been done. If there is damage in that gut, we have to figure out how to close those gaps and those cracks, right? We have to repair that damage. The next one is going to be to replace. We need to support the natural breakdown of proteins, carbs, fats, fiber, and dairy. So a huge way of doing this. Now, actually, let me go back to phase 1 for a second. One of the things that we can kind of freak out on this. How do I do with it? How do I remove? And almost can be kind of stressful. And how do I repair? I want to just say back to that natural mindset, that vitalistic perspective. If you are stressed out about fixing all these things, you are actually increasing trouble in your body. I say this all the time. Stress raises those cortisol levels. It gets you running. We've all talked about that, fight or flight. We are in the gas pedal is to the floor, and we're like, ah! We're actually increasing trouble on our body. So the first thing, when we think through these 4 R's, don't stress yourself out, okay? You got into the mess slowly. We're gonna get out. It's a process, okay? Don't stress yourself out in thinking through, oh no. And I also wanna stress, put the good stuff in. Our bodies are intelligent, which means they know what to do with the good stuff. So if I want to strengthen that city, I don't want to just kick everything out. I actually want to bring the weapons to the good guys. The good guys know what to do with the weapons. Does that make sense? They know how to defend their city because it's in them. Does that make sense? And so think nurture, nature, think the nutrients, give the good guys what they need, and the good guys are going to know how to defend the city. Okay? So I just want to throw that out there. Replace. So I talked about we're going to replace the things that have been broken, torn down. Diet is a huge. This is where those nutrient-dense foods come in too. And replenish is phase 4. Restore the balance and the gut microbiome. Okay. We're going to just throw some of these supplements up here because food is going to be your #1 method of defense, both in coming after and in repairing. Does that make sense? In giving your body what it needs to fight, but also in repairing. Okay. But supplements are going to be really helpful, especially when you are dealing with things that are a little bit more than just, I just have some bloating and I don't know, every once in a while I don't feel good. But your gut may be mostly healthy. And some things, maybe diet could just shift and change, but it's always good for us to have these options. But if you're even going, I really need to heal, I got some issues going on, we have some stuff that's going to be really helpful for you. Collagen, I will talk about collagen all day long. I think everybody should be taking collagen. It is literally the structure of your cell, and it's, if you think the gut repair, it's going to help repair the cells in your gut. Literally, it's going to go in there and push them back up where they've come back down and they're not doing so good. Collagen is going to be fantastic. Some of these other powders, I have some more information at the back for those as well. But they are going to help with the mucosal cells, help restore some of those mucosal cells, help the body just function and heal a little bit more. Okay? So we can talk a little bit more about supplements at that table also in a little bit. So, about the nervous system.
Okay, so I'm going to continue to get a little more nerdy with you guys. I think you can handle that, and I'm feeling nerdy and educational today. So for those that have been into our office before or come in regularly, what you guys hear us talk about when in reference to the nervous system is the central nervous system. Okay, I'm sure you guys hear us say that 800 times in the time that you're in the office, right? And so the nervous system as a whole is actually broken down into several parts. So I just want to dig a little deeper into that with you guys today, just so that you guys can have a better understanding of the role that your chiropractic care has to your gut health. So when we talk about that nervous system, and specifically that central nervous system, we are talking about the brain and the spinal cord, okay? That is your central nervous system. From there, the nerves branch out and go to every piece of your body, right? It actually splits into a couple different systems. They all work together, they all overlap, they just have different responsibilities. So after nerves leave that central nervous system, they're gonna break down into two tiers. That first tier is your somatic nervous system. The next tier is the autonomic nervous system. That's the one I want you guys to focus on and remember, okay? Super important. The autonomic nervous system is everything that automatically happens in your body. Anything that you don't have to think about your body doing, that is part of that system. So your heart rate, your respiratory, so your breathing, you don't have to think about breathing, or most of us don't have to think about breathing anyway. Your gut function, like when you eat food, you don't have to be like, okay, digest my food, right? It just does, it just automatically does it. So your immune system, again, if you get a cut, you don't have to be like, all right, heal. It just automatically does it, right? So anything that automatically happens is part of that autonomic nervous system, okay? From there, specifically for gut, that is going to be controlled and regulated by your enteric nervous system, okay? So in order for you to digest your food and have all of those good things happen, signals need to go from your brain, through the spinal cord, through the like autonomic nervous system, into that enteric system, and then back again, just back and forth, all day long, telling your gut what to do, and that gut talking to the brain saying, hey, here's my gut feeling, I don't feel good about it. That also happens with that nervous system. And so if there's interference anywhere along that line, things aren't going to happen properly, right? You guys know this. If there's a kink in the hose, water isn't getting through, signals aren't getting through, and we're just not talking, we're not communicating, we're not functioning the way that we're supposed to be. That's where your chiropractor comes in, aka me, okay? With every chiropractic adjustment you get, what we are doing is, yes, we're worried about your pain and your symptoms and the warning signs that you're getting. Those are just a little tiny piece of it. I really want you guys to understand that so you can take your chiropractic care to that next level. It's not just about the pain. It's about everything that's happening with your nervous system. And so what we do is we take that information that you guys are telling us and we link it back to what area of that central nervous system do we need to focus on. And by getting those specific adjustments, it is then regulating your autonomic nervous system. The other part of your autonomic nervous system that I'm sure you guys have heard us talk about is that fight or flight response and the rest and digest and heal response. So you have those three tiers of central, autonomic, the fight or flight, break, or the rest, digest, and then that enteric system. So those three systems, if that central system isn't working the way it's supposed to because you are stressed out from trauma, thoughts, or toxins, whatever that stress is, the gut's not working. Just like Caddy said, if I'm up here with my knees shaking, because there's a lot of you, no, I'm okay. I've gotten much better at this. But like if you're stuck in that fight or flight mode because you have those stressors bombarding you, you get those butterflies, right? You get that gut feeling, and I'm in a fight or flight mode of like my armpits are sweating and I'm breathing and I'm doing weird things with my hands. And that's just because I'm over here right now. But once I walk away and I'm done talking to you guys, I will be back down here and my rest, digest, heal side of things will kick back in. And so that's where we come in of helping you guys reach that next level of health and function, is making sure your nervous system is doing what it's supposed to be doing. So if you've never had your nervous system checked, get it checked so you know exactly what's happening. And then from there, you do what you gotta do. But first things first, you gotta identify what's going wrong, what's the cause. For those that are in our office that are patients, kudos to you. You've already made those first steps. You're taking the information that you got and you're doing something about it, so that's fantastic. I did want to see, so in case you guys didn't know, this is going to be our 20th year anniversary of Freedom Chiropractic in a couple months in August. So that's awesome, 20 years of helping our community. So I want raise of hand, who is a current patient in our office? Like 95%, yeah. Wait, hands up, I'm not done yet. Who has been here for a year, with our office for a year? Keep your hands up. Great, 5 years? Awesome. 10 years? Who's been with us 15? From the beginning? Hey, we got a couple from the beginning, so that's awesome. You guys are doing fantastic of continuously taking care of your nervous system, like all of you are, and that's where that maintenance comes in, of being proactive and not reactive, staying on top of it so that you fix the issue before it sinks in, before it becomes these like Crohn's disease or irritable bowel syndrome and all of that unfun things. So kudos to all of you. We've had quite a few patients recently who have come in, with a variety of different things, like so many different things. Oh, my thing died. That's sad. Okay, well, it's all right. I didn't need it anyway. They've come in with a variety of different issues. They've gone through the program. They've done the work. Everything got better, and then they just stopped, which makes zero sense. Does that make sense to anybody?
Yes.
Just stop what you're doing to make it better, right? If something's working, keep doing it. Whether it's with us, whether it's with someone else, I don't care. Whatever is working to keep you healthy, keep doing it. That's the big takeaway. If you find what's working for your health, keep doing it. It's just like nutrition and exercise. If you use that to lose a bunch of weight and get healthy, and then you just stop, what's gonna happen?
It's gonna revert.
Thank you. It's going to revert. So it's the same thing with your nervous system. And the fact is, because you can't completely eliminate all stress from your life completely and totally, always, forever, right? It's always going to be happening in those three forms of traumas, toxins, and thoughts. And so you got to keep taking care of that nervous system. So kudos for all you guys that have been with us forever, for longer than I've been here. It's awesome to get to see your faces every week. And so that concludes today, because my PowerPoint it's done. It is actually done. But as always, we have supplements 10% off. It's the only time that you can get any supplement at a discount other than our anniversary party, which is in, I don't know, either August or September. You guys will get a notification. We're gonna do our drawing right now for everybody, and then if there's anyone here who hasn't been into our office that would like to have that initial check done to see what's going on, come chat with either myself or Caddy in the back. Make sure you stop at our hydration and wellness if you haven't already, and thank you and have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay, is anybody not in here? Anybody not?
Is any